Terence Bud Crawford versus Keith one-time Thurman. How would this particular matchup go? Who would win at 147 pounds? This is a question that a lot of people are asking themselves after Terence Crawford managed to consolidate all the belts at 140. Now, I'm going to say that Keith Thurman is probably the bigger puncher of the two, although that's up for debate. We haven't seen Terence Crawford at 147 yet to really know how he hits at that weight. And unlike Keith Thurman, Terence Crawford's been taking most of his opponents out at 140 pounds. Keith Thurman has been going the distance in most of his fights at 147 these days. So how will Crawford's power translate to the 147 pound division? It remains to be seen. But for now, provisionally, I'm going to say that Keith Thurman may be the harder hitter. In terms of speed, Crawford's got that. In terms of skill, Crawford's got that. I mean, Crawford can box long. He can box on the inside. He can box on the back foot. He can box coming forward. He can box in the center of the ring. He can box southpaw. He can box orthodox. He's got punching power. He's got hand speed. He's got great balance. He's got a good jab. He can throw good body shots. We saw that against Ndongo. I mean, is there anything that Terence Crawford can't do? The only potential weakness that I see in Crawford, especially if he moves up to 147 pounds, is maybe his punch resistance, because he was wobbled in some earlier fights, but we don't know. You know, it's possible that his punch resistance is just fine. And then again, sorry to labor the point, but there is the story from way back in the days when he had some fisticuffs with Gary Russell Jr. when they were both amateurs, I believe it was. And apparently Terence Crawford came off second best. And that's a quite famous story from back in the days, which appears to be true. But other than punch resistance, what advantage might Keith Thurman have over Terence Crawford? I don't even know, other than punching power and punch resistance. But other than that, and does Keith Thurman have the greatest punch resistance himself? He's been wobbled in fights, and he's vulnerable to the body, Keith Thurman. We've seen that several times. He might be more vulnerable to the body than he actually is to the head. And we know Terence Crawford's a great body puncher. I think it will be an intriguing fight. I think that Keith Thurman is the most dangerous opponent for Terence Crawford at 147 because of his style, because of the fact that Keith Thurman is sudden. Terence Crawford has definitely never fought anybody who's as sudden and explosive as Keith Thurman before, particularly a guy who's that big. He's never fought nobody like that before. So that would be a different dynamic for Terence Crawford. But I personally think Terence Crawford would be able to deal with it. You see, the thing about Keith Thurman, he's powerful, he's explosive. I think one of the reasons why he hasn't got that many knockouts as he's moved up into competition is not because he don't hit hard, because all these guys like Sean Porter and these individuals are saying that his power is for real. I think the reason that he's not getting so many KOs, even Robert Guerrero said he had, was a tremendous puncher. The reason I think he's not getting so many KOs is because he does telegraph his shots a lot of the time, Keith Thurman. Even though he's fast and explosive, he kind of telegraphs the shots because he loads up so much with his power shots. He's not a guy like an Adonis Stevenson, for example, who disguises his power shots. When he throws that left hand, it's so straight, and he really does. You don't see him grimace and, really load up and, get his body in an overtly aggressive position to be able to land the shot. No, with Adonis Stevenson, it's all nice and relaxed shoulders, like he's taking a walk in the park, and bang, out of nowhere, this straight left hand comes. And it catches you, hurts you, drops you. Keith Thurman is a bit more deliberate than that. Even though he's explosive, even though he's fast, he's a bit more deliberate. When the big shots are coming from him. The right hand that he throws don't come out smooth. It's kind of forced, and, hopefully some of you get what I'm saying when it comes to Keith Thurman delivering his shots. So the fact that he telegraphs his power shots, somebody as quick as Terence Crawford, and I don't just mean quick physically, I'm talking about his reflexes and his mind. Terence Crawford has got an extremely fast mind. It works extremely quickly in the ring. And I think he would see Keith Thurman's power shots coming a mile off. And Crawford's chances in the fight, and even Thurman's chances in the fight, I think would depend on how aggressive Crawford wanted to be. I think if Crawford went in there and, tried to outbox Keith Thurman, I think you will probably do it. You don't want Keith Thurman coming forward at you. Don't get it twisted, because he certainly hits a lot harder on the front foot than he does on the back foot. But still, if Terence Crawford went in there with a mindset of, I'm just going to outskill this guy, I see him beating Keith Thurman. I really do. As good as Keith Thurman is, has he dominated his opposition? I mean, maybe he's fought better opposition, pound for pound, than Terence Crawford has, at least when Crawford is at 140. Maybe Thurman possibly has fought better opposition at 147 than Crawford fought at 140, but it's debatable. And even so, Crawford dealt with his opposition decisively. There was no debate about any Crawford decisions. And there wasn't that many decisions. Most of the guys got taken out. He stopped those guys. Whereas Keith Thurman's been going the distance. He went the distance with Robert Guerrero. He went the distance with Sean Porter. He went the distance with Danny Garcia. Bud Crawford has been more decisive. Will Bud Crawford be the same level of puncher at 147 as he's been at 140? Maybe he will be, because of the fact that he lands so clean and suddenly. Maybe he'll actually be the same level of puncher, or at least a similar level of puncher at 147. If I had to pick a winner between Keith one-time Thurman and Bud Crawford, if they were to fight anytime soon, let's say in the next 12 months, I'd be taking Bud Crawford to win. I'm not saying Keith Thurman don't have a chance. I certainly wouldn't be shocked if Keith Thurman won. But if Thurman did win, I suspect it would be by KO. And it may even be in a situation where he's behind on the judges' scorecards. Outboxing Terence Crawford is something I don't think Keith Thurman is capable of doing. I don't think anybody at 147 pounds right now is capable of outboxing Bud Crawford. So those are my thoughts on a potential matchup between Terence Bud Crawford and Keith one-time Thurman. Let me know what you feel about this potential matchup. Maybe you think I've got it totally wrong. Maybe you think that Keith would destroy Bud Crawford and that the size difference, the extra 7 pounds, would make a massive advantage for Keith Thurman in the fight. And that Bud Crawford wouldn't be able to deal with the kind of physicality that Thurman brings to the table. And Thurman has been fighting at a high level. He fought Danny Garcia, he fought Sean Porter, so on and so forth. So, he ain't exactly been having knockover jobs. He's been having to work hard for his victories. And steel sharpens steel. When you've been in those kind of difficult fights, it improves you as a fighter. As long as you're not taking too much punishment. And Keith Thurman hasn't. For the most part, Thurman ain't taken that much punishment in most of his fights. He's been fairly decent at avoiding the worst of it. So, I'm very interested to hear from you guys. Who would win this fight between Terence Crawford and Keith one-time Thurman? Do you think it's going to happen anytime soon? Because at the end of the day, one time is with Al Heyman. A lot of his fights are on Showtime PBC. Terence Bud Crawford is with Top Rank Bob Arum. Normally fights on, this fight was on ESPN recently. I'm not sure if Al Heyman still has a relationship with ESPN or not. I'm not sure. If he does, maybe it would be viable for a Terence Crawford to fight Keith Thurman on ESPN. Possibly. Hopefully. Because you all know we want to see that fight. We all want to see it. But as I say, from the promotional point of view, can Bob Arum and Al Heyman come to some type of agreement to make these fights? And it's not only the Keith Thurman situation, even with Errol Spence. He's an Al Heyman fighter. So what would happen there, people? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I'm going to do a separate video about Errol Spence and how I think he would do against Terence Bud Crawford. It's a different style matchup. Thurman and Errol Spence are totally different stylistically. They have different strengths and weaknesses. Thurman is more explosive, more dynamic, can box on the front foot and the back foot in a more dynamic fashion than Errol Spence. I think Thurman's probably a harder one-punch hitter than Errol Spence, but Spence is a bit more steady, not quite as wild as Thurman, a better body puncher than Thurman, possibly physically stronger than Thurman as well. Thurman is physically strong, but I suspect Spence might be a bit more physically strong. Anyway, I'll cover that in a separate video. So thanks for watching. Make sure you like the video, thumbs up, or if you dislike the video, thumbs down. Favorite the video, share the video. If you haven't done so already, make sure you click the notification bell below this video to receive alerts for all my future uploads. And finally, appearing on screen right now very shortly are a selection of 4 other videos I recorded recently, which you might want to go take a look at if you haven't seen them already. So thanks for watching. My name is Hatman. I'm out.